Welcome back to Refried Friday. Lots of new comments about the new stuff that Apple released this week. And don't worry, there's more iPhone 10 videos, there's more Apple Watch videos on the way. But for the sake of consistency, it's Friday, let's respond to a lot of your guys' comments. So starting us out is many random things. As for Refried Friday, what is the worst excuse you've heard for someone who prefers Windows 10 over Mac OS? For me, I think a lot of the time, I think it's people saying that you can game more on Windows because anything that runs Mac OS can also run Windows via Boot Camp. So when people say, well, like these apps are not compatible with Mac, it's like, well, it's very easy to just boot camp Windows 10 on your Mac, and then your Mac can run any game or any program a PC can. It may not be that optimized, but it's no longer a matter of compatibility, it's simply a matter of how good are the specs in your Mac, and I have a lot of friends with very heavily spec'd iMacs that they just put Windows 10 on and they run Windows games just fine. Crazy Faint says, in my opinion, if you have an iPhone 6S or 6S Plus, I don't see a point of upgrading. I have the 6S Plus and it works perfectly. It flies and does everything I need it to. It flies? I'm sorry, what? The iPhone 6S I don't think was supposed to fly. I've never heard of this. You're kind of confusing me right now. But yes, I also see your point. There's nothing wrong with the 6S. And I don't want people to get the impression that because I'm excited for the 8, 8 Plus, and 10, that makes the 7 and 6 just not as good. I mean, obviously, the 6S is kind of like the last great iPhone with a headphone jack. So for that reason alone, a lot of people are fine with it. It's just for sure, yeah, right now it's fine, but a year can go by, they can get older, they'll stop supporting things like wireless charging and maybe some new features that we can be excited for that will support Bluetooth 5.0 and will support this new infrastructure Apple's building will not be supported on the 6S. So you're gonna have to upgrade eventually, but the 6S is only 2 years old. It's definitely not an outdated phone. It's still perfectly fine. That's why Apple is still selling it. Perfectly capable. Nothing wrong with keeping it. Chad Law says you blow dry your hair, don't you? I actually do not. Bet you thought you were cool for thinking that. I don't though. No, this is completely naturally dry. Michael Lozito says, so what do you think next year's phone will be called? X1 or 10.1 or 11? However you want to say that. I actually think that the iPhone lineup is so confusing right now because Apple has always been bad at naming things because we have 8 and 8 Plus, not 7S for some reason, alongside 10, except it's not written like the number 10, it's written like a Roman numeral. So that doesn't match up. Why didn't you use Roman numerals on the 8 and do V111? Because that would have looked dumb, of course, but X looks good for marketing. So I'm predicting that next year they're just going to switch to calling it the same year like they have with the iPad Pros. They didn't call this one the iPad Pro 2, they just called it the new iPad. So from then on out, it's kind of referred to by either its screen size or the year. So for instance, you can say 2017 iPad or 2017 iPad Pro. I think next year we'll end up just saying 2018 iPhone and 2018 iPhone Plus. But in marketing, it will just be referred to as the new iPhones, which is dumb and confusing, but you have to admit that if we just keep using numbers in phones, it'll get confusing fast, especially if we start going to phone 13, iPhone 14. That's not as marketable and Apple wouldn't be as okay with that. Wedlight Production says the annoying thing is the non-cellular version of the composite back and not the ceramic. So if you want the more durable back, you have to get the cellular version. I can kind of get that. The ceramic back is nice, but keep in mind the Series 3 non-cellular is actually cheaper than what the Series 2 was, and you're getting more out of it. This new Series 3 is capable of the wireless charging on AirPower later. It features the new W2 chip, so it's faster. It has a faster processor, so you're getting lots of upgrades for a better price. But yes, sadly, the fact that it doesn't have a ceramic back kind of sucks because it means that that little glass plate that you charge your watch with won't be as durable if you get the non-cellular version. But I think Apple acknowledges that that thing is attached to your arm all the time, so the likelihood of that glass circle on the back of your watch getting scratched is very, very slim because you should be wearing the watch, not like throwing it around or whatever. I don't see how that's a huge problem, but as long as it helps keep the Series 3 cheap, I think that's great because we want this watch to be affordable. Zalan says, is there anything that you like in Android and miss from iOS iPhones? What I'm about to miss when I get my iPhone 10 is being able to swipe up to access Control Center. I'm not terribly excited for having to swipe down from the top of the screen every time I want to access that because that's more like Android and it's further to reach, especially because we access Control Center a lot. So that I'm about to miss. And in terms of things I like on Android, I really, really want Apple to just copy directly from Android the chat bubbles feature. I love that in Facebook Messenger or sometimes in messages on Android, you can have a conversation going in just a little little face chat bubble that hovers over the screen. You just tap to open it and tap it again to close it. I think that's really intuitive. I don't think it's that intrusive on the software, and I wish Apple would replicate that on iOS. I think it'd be really handy. James Game says, it's my birthday tomorrow. Please put me on Refried Friday. Well, because it's your birthday, we gotta stop with the people who just comment Refried Friday to get on it. That's not how this works. I passed so many of those comments and didn't include them. Come on. Be a bit creative. Make a comment that's funny and original. That's how you end up on here. Matt Guy 3135 says 326 PPI existed in 2010. You're right, and there's nothing really that wrong with it. Yes, the competition has gotten really good about crushing pixels closer and closer together and getting them as small as possible, but what I think the point of having the iPhone 8 still retain that 326, while that doesn't seem like a very high resolution display, helps with battery life, helps with processing power, and again, of course, it keeps the phone cheap. You're getting a $700 phone that has 64 gigs of storage, a camera that shoots 4K at 60, and Bluetooth 5.0 with wireless charging. That's a really good deal for $700, and one of the compromises is just the display isn't ultra sharp. It's pretty good, but again, yeah, it's pretty dated. Victor Holon says, how iPhone 10 is supposed to actually lock? How do I turn off the screen? Guys, that power button on the side is not a new functional Siri button. It is just the power button. Pressing it once is gonna turn the phone off. Pressing it twice activates Apple Pay. Holding it down activates Siri. And similar to what Marquez said in yesterday's video, I agree that probably holding it longer than 2 to 3 seconds will result in a shutdown animation. And if not, you can go into the settings in iOS 11 and hit shutdown. That's still an on and off switch. That hasn't changed. It's just a little bigger. Ken Taylor says, Apple Sheep, how can we help you afford this? I'm glad you asked. There's a Patreon link in the description. All of the products I should have pre-ordered last night because today is the 15th. Hopefully, the live stream last night worked out well. It hasn't happened for me yet, but if you're watching this, it means it has happened for you. I hope that I have successfully pre-ordered the iPhone 8 Plus, the Apple Watch Series 3, and the 4K Apple TV. That's what I'm doing tonight. But again, if you're watching this, it's already happened. And to help me afford all that, there's a Patreon link in the description. Hubmuscle.com says, my wife wants to know where's the rose gold in both the watch and the new iPhones. So I think for the sake of manufacturing costs, it was easier for Apple to not include 4 colors and switch it to 3, but they really kind of blended rose gold and gold. If you look at the colors with the new watch and the new phone, yes, it looks very gold, but there are elements of that rose hinted in there. Certain people are referring to it as blush gold, as the big leak we heard as well. Since there are only 3 color options, it means that the stock of all of these products will be more available when we do our pre-orders. But yeah, it's sad to see rose gold go, but I am actually very happy to see the return of space gray. That's finally back on the iPhone lineup, so now you can have a complete space gray ecosystem from iMac all the way down to your watch. Mohammed Rizwan says, why didn't they discontinue the 6S? Well, like I said earlier, it's still a perfectly good phone. People are going to buy it, and it also received a price reduction. So a lot of people say, why doesn't Apple make budget-friendly phones? They do. It's just their phones from 2 years ago. They keep making them because people keep buying them, and they're still good phones. They usually don't discontinue a phone after 2 years anyway, so just relax. Pinkaj Dohary says, frankly, I am frustrated by so much leakage. There is no element of surprise as used to be in the days of Steve, even till the time of the Apple Watch release. Well, listen, yes, there were a lot of leaks, but you have to admit that sometimes you enable yourself. I made it a big effort on my channel to not generate hype up so high. That's why I boycotted the iPhone edition topic for like a good 6 weeks. Everyone was talking about it and I refused to talk about it because I said hype is too high, you're gonna disappoint yourself. So on my channel, at least, I'm gonna try to keep uploading a video a day and I'm gonna try to make it not about the iPhone. That was very difficult to do, but I hope it helped keep your expectations lower and keep the hype down. If you're disappointed by the leaks and hype, admit that you were the one watching all of the hype videos. You were the one reading all the leaks, which again isn't entirely your fault because I get that the media covered that like crazy. Every major YouTuber kept talking about it, and that's why I tried to resist. Not that I'm a big part of the media. I'm a fairly small channel in the grand scheme of things, but I tried in my part to just not talk about it because I didn't want things to be too ruined. We already know pretty much what the next year's iPhone is gonna be like. That's already not that big of a surprise. Sadly, that's how this industry works. Keybreaker says, and fast charging. Yes, that's something I found out after I made the video. Apple didn't talk about this, but both the iPhone 8 and iPhone 10 support fast charging. They just don't come in the box. This costs a lot of extra money, I know, but if you get a USB-C to Lightning cable and you charge your iPhone with the same brick chargers that are meant for charging MacBooks, you can charge your iPhone to 50% in only 30 minutes, which is actually really, really fast. But again, you just have to pay extra for it, which sucks. I know, I wish they just included that, but at least they now support it, which is nice. And something they didn't really cover. I don't know why. Probably because they weren't including it. Saw9 says, update, Samsung hits back with 4K at 60 and software update. I found a couple comments of people people saying that the Note 8 is going to get 4K at 60. But again, I'm just mad. Samsung, why don't you have that at launch? What's so difficult about having software code that writes 4K at 60? Shouldn't it just do that? And keep in mind, that's on a $930 phone. With the iPhone 8, the regular one, for $700, you can get 4K at 60 out of the box. You don't have to wait for some software update. And I'm overall just confused. If the Note 8 can do 4K at 60, why wasn't that built in from the start? What about the software wasn't figured out yet? I don't get it. Stefan Full says, yeah, those games look way worse than stuff on the Switch, which is also portable. Yeah, and the Switch is also over twice the price of the Apple TV. It's $180. It can output at 4K. It's playing games at 4K and in HDR. And keep in mind, I've watched a lot of Switch Let's Plays. The Nintendo Switch drops frames on games it was meant to play. The Nintendo Switch can't even output at 4K when it's plugged into a TV. So I know the Switch and the Apple TV are completely different products. I'm just saying Apple TV 4K is less than half the price of a Switch, and yet it can output at a higher resolution. And the games they showed in the keynote, I thought looked amazing. So I'm excited to put it to the test and see how apps take advantage of that 4K resolution. MHO says no ProMotion. No, but keep in mind, we didn't get True Tone on the iPhone 7 either. Even though True Tone was introduced before the iPhone 7 came out, they hadn't perfected it yet. And I think bringing that to a smaller display is rather tricky. Also, Apple probably wants to save a couple of features for next year's iPhone, and probably adding ProMotion to the iPhone 10 and 8 would have caused the price to go up a little bit. And they want a big list of features for next year's iPhone, and I think ProMotion would be a cool one. To get 120 hertz in your pocket, that would definitely set it aside from the competition, and let's hope that no Android phone does it first. That was kind of cynical. I'm sorry. If any Android company figures it out first, congratulations, you did something truly cool. So that's all the comments I want to read for today. I appreciate all your feedback on the channel, both negative and positive, and I can't wait to read what comments we get next week, and hopefully, a week from today, I will be unboxing all 3 of the items I pre-ordered. iPhone 8 Plus, Apple Watch Series 3, and 4K Apple TV. So we might have to delay Refried Friday a week, just because there will be so much unboxing, so much to review. I can't wait. Let's just hope the pre-orders go well. You guys know by now already. Dang it. I envy you. You know the future. Do I die in the next 6 hours? Anyway, this is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.